Hello and welcome to the very first lesson of Agile Project Management course for you. If you're preparing for the PMP exam or PMI ACP exam or want to learn more about Agile Project Management to apply it at work, this course is for you straight from Agile Practices Guide, which is a manual by PMI. I have carefully covered all essential topics in the simplest way possible. I'm drawing from 13 years of experience in training and project management, and I have also included elements that I felt are needed in the content that is available online. When I was preparing for my PMP exam, I cleared it in my first attempt. I must have prepared for like 1 month, and from those learnings, I've incorporated everything that I feel is missing. I know how overwhelming exam preparations can get, and my intention is to keep it simple, easy to follow, and practical. So let's jump in. Let's first take a look at what we are going to cover in lesson number one. We will understand what is Agile, a very high level but very clear understanding of Agile, an overview. Then we will talk a little bit about Agile as a project management approach versus traditional project management approach. All these names that you're seeing here, traditional, waterfall, predictive, they are for the traditional project management approach. Agile approaches are also called adaptive. So we will dig a little deeper into it and understand the difference. The third one that you're seeing is understanding the project context. What do I mean by that? Is that what are the aspects of projects that are different in agile versus project management? So these are the aspects that also help you understand which approach is better for which project. While agile can be applied to almost all projects, but it is very important to understand what are the criteria that help you define the life cycle, whether agile is better or traditional project management approach is better. And this is a very important concept for you to understand, because there will be so many questions in your exam that are based on deciding which life cycle is better for a given project scenario. I've included examples as well for you to have a better understanding. So let's start. We will start by getting a clear picture of what exactly is agile in our minds. So agile is a project management methodology. It was originally created for software development by a group of experts in the Agile Alliance. You can find it online. It was a group of 17 software practitioners. It was created in 2001, and it is also documented in the manifesto that is available online. So what is it? It's a project management methodology, how to manage projects. Agile is built on four values, 12 principles, and a set of practices, and we'll cover all of that in this course. It is important to understand that agile is an umbrella term. What do I mean by that? That agile is a category of approaches, a type of approaches which follow agile values and principles. But within that, there are different approaches, different frameworks. For example, Scrum, lean development, extreme programming, also known as XP, DSDM, Kanban. So these are all, they all come in agile type of project management approaches and differ slightly from each other to fit a project context. So agile is not a single approach, it's an umbrella term. That's what we are trying to understand here. Now, let's break down the key differences between these two approaches, which is predictive. Let's first understand the names, predictive and adaptive. Predictive, as the name suggests, predictive is something which can be predicted well in advance. So there's a lot of planning upfront. Adaptive, something that is open to changes, which accommodates changes. So predictive and adaptive. Predictive is also known as traditional or waterfall style project management, and adaptive approach is agile. Okay. Project structure is the first aspect that we are going to talk about. Now, what do I mean by that? Imagine constructing a bridge. You can't deliver half a bridge. It must be completed as a whole before it's usable. So, the entire structure is planned, designed, and executed from start to finish. So, in a predictive approach, project structure is built as a whole delivery in the end, a single delivery. However, when we look at the project structure in Agile, think of developing a mobile app. You might first release a basic version with essential features like login and messaging, depending on what type of app it is. Then gradually add new functionalities like video calls or payments or whatever is needed. So, that is a project structure which is followed in Agile. So, it is built in increments through iterative cycles, and then later on when we explore more you'll learn that these are called sprints. Now let's talk about planning approach. In predictive, consider planning a wedding. Most details, venue, guest list, and catering are finalized months in advance. There is limited room for adjustment closer to the event. So that is a predictive approach. Now in Agile, how does the planning work? Think of organizing a series of training workshop, or whatever. You might plan the first session in detail and leave the specifics of the later session flexible. So you plan one at a time and you keep on planning throughout the project life cycle. Then let's talk about delivery frequency. What do I mean by that? So in predictive, there is a final delivery only at project's end. Value, the benefit or what the customer wants is realized only when the project is completed. However, in Agile, there is an increment delivery. You provide value continuously. Change management, again, very important aspect of any project. Imagine manufacturing a car model. Changes to the design after the production has started is difficult, right? For example, you're building a 20-story high rise building. The layout and everything needs to be done in advance. And based on that, you can't halfway change it from 20 to 40 because the foundation is built in a way that it will support only a 20-story building. So you can't do a lot of changes in a predictive approach, but in adaptive Agile, the name only suggests the meaning of Agile is flexible, something that is flexible. So in Agile, you incorporate changes, you welcome changes as per the customer feedback and evolving project requirements. Last point is customer involvement. In predictive approaches, there is limited customer involvement. Once the requirements have been gathered, they are set in the planning phase, and once the execution begins, there is very limited involvement of the customer. However, one of the core values of Agile is customer collaboration. So it means that high involvement of customer is required or is encouraged throughout the project cycle. In this slide, I have put together some examples. They'll help you understand what kind of project, falls in predictive style and what kind of projects fall in adaptive style. I'll not go through it. You can read through it. If you have any questions, please put in a comment. Now let's continue our understanding of the difference between predictive and adaptive project managements. Now you see here there are four elements, four project aspects that I have put on the left side of the table: scope, time, cost, and risk. Quickly, scope is what needs to be done, time is the time that is needed to complete the project, cost is, of course, the budget and the resources and everything that you need for the project, and risk is, you know what risk is. All right. So now, if you look at predictive and adaptive agile project management approaches, first of all, you need to understand that in predictive, what is fixed? Scope is fixed. So it is decided what needs to be done, which doesn't change more or less, stays the same. However, what is fixed in agile? What is fixed in agile? Two things: time and cost. What is variable? Scope. So that is how you need to remember the difference. All right, so first let's talk about scope. In predictive approaches, scope is fixed upfront. Think of projects like launching a new financial service product. The requirements are defined early, and the goal is to stick to that. And the building example that I was talking about. In Agile, the scope keeps changing as the requirements evolve or customer gives feedback. Now let's talk about time. In predictive, you know the scope that this is the work that you need to complete. Now the time, however, the schedules are created up front, but there is room for wiggle room for change or extension or whatever. So time is not so fixed and is subject to change. It's variable and depends on scope and resources. However, in Agile, you fix the time, and we will talk about time boxing and iterations and sprints. So that is fixed that, okay, in 2 weeks, this is what you need to complete. Now, that what you need to complete may change, but those 2 weeks are going to remain the same. Now, let's talk about the cost. Cost is also variable in predictive project management. It can fluctuate with time and scope. Also depends on the contract and maybe that is outside of our discussion right now. Can fluctuate with time and scope is what you need to understand. In adaptive, cost is fixed, usually a preset budget that you have to work within this budget. Risk. How is risk managed? Risk is also anticipated and risk responses are planned and advanced in predictive project management. However, in Agile, you have a backlog, and we'll talk about it at length later. And that backlog is adjusted as per the risk. So the teams connect, they talk about risk, and when a risk is identified, through feedback logs, loops, it is managed continuously. It's a constant discussion about risk, and what needs to be done is managed continuously throughout the project. Understanding the project context. Understanding the nature of the project is very important to decide which approach is better. So, in a project where complexity is low, you know what needs to be done, requirements are stable, then a predictive approach is more desirable and recommended. However, a project where there is high certainty, for example, you need to develop a drug. Okay, so when you're developing the drug, you're doing continuous testing and your understanding of the chemical mix or whatever. I don't have experience in that, but I'm just randomly hypothetically talking about it. So when the certainty is uncertainty is high, requirements are evolving, you're learning as you're testing, then in such a setting, agile approach is better. So I hope that gave you a fair idea of what agile is, what is the difference between adaptive and predictive approaches, and how to choose which approach is better for a given project scenario. That is it for lesson number 1. I will see you in lesson number 2. Thank you.